Good morning, this is Tracy Rooks, and I am currently going to create a modeling project for you, and we're going to use that as our first project within all of our project sources for our reference architecture at T-Squared Software. I am the chief architect of T-Squared Software, so you're getting it from the people who actually created it. So first thing we do is open Visual Studio 2012, go to a new project. Here you'll need to select modeling projects, and you can get these from the Modeling and Visualization API. So we're going to create one here. It's going to take just a sec. And we're going to name the project cast, or T2.cast.model. And we'll take the modeling part out of our solution names. Cast name for our namespace. And we'll wait a minute here while it creates. Now, the thing about reference architectures are that they can be reused on a number of projects. We reuse these on 20 to 25 projects. We always start with a modeling project. And the first thing we want to do here today is to add a new item. And you'll notice that we have an item here called DB Design. And this should have been uploaded by you when you did the V6. You should also have had a DB Design template that's included. And we're going to give this a name. And we're going to call it Cast. I'm going to add that to it. And you'll see our DSL designer come up in just a minute. These were created from Microsoft's original DSL designers and have been uploaded for every version. Currently we're using the Visual Studio 11 versions. And you'll notice that we have a little toolbox, and we can start creating new databases here. So we're going to create a real simple little quick thing here just to show you how this works. You can double click, or you can do one of your other little numbers of dragging and dropping. You'll notice in the property windows there's the properties for all of the properties of SQL Server. And of course we're going to call this cast, and our namespace is going to be t2.cast. Alright, now we can make other changes to this as we go along with the various properties that are allowed in Visual Studio. I find this really helpful. And the reason is because I can never remember all of them. But in any event, once we're done with that, we're going to add a table here. And we're just going to do a simple little table creation deal where we're going to call this, we'll call this the customer table. And you'll notice that there's a lot of different properties, and we'll go over these at length in another video. Right now it's just teaching you how to use the designers and how to use the generators from it and what to do with those. So we'll do a table connector. Oops, I'm sorry, a database table connector. Can't make a mistake. And from here we'll add a primary key. And we're going to call this customer ID. We find that the name of the table with ID tends to work really well. It's easy to find later. We'll need to set some properties like the type. In this case I'm going to make it an integer. And identity, so that it automatically increments. Name's not reserved. Primary key. And of course everything else is set correctly. Maybe null is false because it is a primary key. We'll add a couple of other columns here. And we'll call this customer name. And we're going to make that a invarchar, so we can use it in different languages later on. And we're going to give it 100 characters here. And we're going to make it searchable. Searchable means that in all of our search stored procs and in all of our search objects, you will see this show up. And again, in later videos we'll be going over search, so don't tend to think about it too much at the moment. We'll add a new normal column here and call this customer sort name. And again, it's going to be an invarchar, and make it a smaller type. You can add as many columns as SQL Server will take here, so we're not going to worry about that too much. We're going to make this 10 so that we can, sort it in different ways depending on the customer name and that kind of thing. Okay, now you'll notice when we right-hand click here, we get a whole lot of different things, and we're going to get to those in just a minute. But one of the first things we want to do is want to add a second table so that you can see how to do table connectors. So we'll just add another table here, and we'll call this the let's see, we're going to call this the customer type table. I mean, you can have various customer types of various things, and that's a reference kind of architecture because it doesn't add constantly, and it's not always adding transactional things. It's just a type. And from here, we're going to connect it with a database table connector. Again, we hold this over, we drag it down, unlock it, it connects. And then one of the things we want to do, obviously, is give this a primary key as well. You'll notice the naming. The naming is not critical in the system, but it really helps you to keep track of everything, so I highly recommend you use it. Again, we're going to make that an int. We'll make it an identity, primary. And hey, set to go with that. Now we're going to give it a regular column, customer type name. And we'll make this an invarchar. There it is. And I'll also add some additional little things here, such as searchable as true. We want to make it a bigger name, so we'll give it 50 characters. Okay, now we're going to connect our two tables together. So we draw from the primary table, or the parent table, to the child table, release it on the child table. Now we've made a standard kind of entity kind of connector thing with a couple of tables, which will make a couple of objects. We're going to select cast. We're actually going to do a Control-A to select everything. Right-hand click it and say, okay, what are some of the first things we need to think about here? Well, obviously, we need to create the foreign keys. So you're going to create all foreign keys here. And you'll note that it created a key down here. It's already connected, so we don't have to do that manually. You can change these names of the foreign keys or whatever you wish. These aren't set in stone or anything of that type. They're just there. So now that we've created that, let's select it all again, and let's create the foreign key columns. So we don't have the columns, so add foreign keys to columns here. There you go. And we're going to also do some things like add the schema names to the tables. Makes it really easy for us to see these later on, and it also helps when you have different schemas in the same name table. So you could have a DBO customer and a sales customer and different types of schemas that might have different things within them. So we're going to remove so if you notice, we got all of our stuff here. Some of the things you can do at this point is you can add and you can remove. So we'll actually remove our foreign keys from the columns, and we'll remove our foreign keys from the tables. And as you can see, it has done just that. I can save it here. Oh, just adding and removing is a very simple thing. So it's all dependent upon your connectors and things of that case. Let's see. Okay, let's select everything here so we can select all of our tables to create our foreign keys with. So we're going to create all of our foreign keys, then add all of our foreign keys to the columns. We've already added the schema names to the tables. We're going to create our standard properties. Standard properties are very useful. Timestamps, for instance, allow us to do concurrency. Created bys, created dates, modified bys, and modified dates provide slow-moving dimensions for us. Very, very helpful in the things that we do as developers. So we'll just comment all that. These are some of the things that you don't really get with other tools, so that's why we created them ourselves. And of course, one of the biggest reasons we created them ourselves is to create all standard stored procedures. So now if we go down here, we can actually see our stored procedures, and we can see our properties for it. Now you see this in insert, and it just does standard CRUD. stored procedures and searches, and also does the foreign key connections like these. Now, these are very helpful in creation and really reduce the amount of time that we're going to be doing these things. So we're going to switch over here to our Solution Explorer so you can actually see it generate some things. Oops. There you go. So while we're in the Solution Explorer, some of the things we want to do right now is we want to come out here and we want to come out here and we want to do the generation. So we have a nice little thing. This is generate please, and you'll see it actually generate a little database project for us that we can use. So we've created a little database project. We have this little class, which probably in another version I'll have it automatically get rid of, but for right now we'll just delete it, so we don't need it. Then we're going to come back over here and we're going to look at some of the things. So it's created a table script. And it's got customers and all the table script stuff. So again, a really time-saving little thing. I know all the DBAs that I work with really like to have these scripts, and the scripts are very important to change management procedures in larger companies. And you'll notice that it has, the created bys and all the dates and all that kind of good stuff. It's also using the try-catch models so that we can catch our errors as we go. We can tell how many rows were affected. This one is a get one, so it should always be 1, unless you didn't get any. If there's an error, it'll return a -1. So you're starting to see the various things it does. It sets up some execute grants on our portals, which are really helpful in our DB role scripts. You'll see these right here. Yeah, I can never remember how to create these either. So in another video, we'll be taking these and forward engineering them to our database. And to give you just a little preview of that before we go. We come out here and we go to forward engineer tool window. We get a little tool window where we can play with it and actually forward engineer all of our scripts into a database so we don't have to do them manually on SQL Server. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I know it's a short one, and I'll see you on our next video training series. Thank you, and have a pleasant day.